Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtadar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about the Bangladeshi elections and ask the question, is this an opportunity for India and Bangladesh to reset relations which have gone completely awry in the last year and a half? Bangladesh was India's probably best friend in South Asia for several years when Sheikh Hasina was the Prime Minister of Bangladesh and Awami League was in power. And then, of course, as you all know, there was a student-led Gen Z revolution in Bangladesh, and now we have had a reasonably fair and free election in Bangladesh. Hundreds and hundreds of international observers have confirmed that the election was more or less nearly pretty fair and quite legitimate. And so Bangladesh has really turned a page and once again has an opportunity to reset its own democracy. So the question that I want to address primarily in today's discussion about the elections is, will India and Bangladesh take this opportunity to reset their relations? Because whether they like it or not, geography binds them forever. India is pregnant with Bangladesh in some ways, and Bangladesh, because of geography, cannot essentially turn its back to India, and India needs Bangladesh also. And there are lots of synergies and trade and other cultural ties that have existed for centuries that neither country can turn its back on that easily. So given all of that, this is a great moment for those two countries to essentially reset their relations. And Prime Minister Modi's very early congratulations to Mr. Rahman on his party's victory in Bangladesh clearly sends a signal that India is probably thinking of patching up with Bangladesh. And we'll talk about that. So in today's conversation, there are 3 or 4 things that I want to talk about. I want to talk a little bit about the elections, not much. You've already know all the facts and have probably heard all the analysis. But I want to share with you what my key reflections are, other than what has already been said out there in the media. Then I will talk about India-Bangladesh chances of reconciliation. Thirdly, what I would like to talk about is the opportunity to really build a new Bangladesh. I will talk a little bit about Sheikh Hasina, and therefore. So basically, this is what has happened in the Bangladesh elections. I'm going to share the results. The Bangladesh Nationalist Party has won 209 seats on its own. It contested about 299 seats. And with its allies, it has an absolute majority in the parliament of 212 seats. The Jamaat-e-Islami has performed probably the best in history that it has performed. It has 68 seats. And with its allies, it has about 77 seats in the parliament. It comes in the second. It is the main opposition party. And the Students' Party, the people who were so prominent, the NCP, has won only 6 seats. It kind of reminds us about what happened during the Arab Spring. Liberal students were primarily ahead, especially in Egypt and other places. But when the time came for elections, they unfortunately could not cash in on that because of many reasons why. For example, they don't have a history of being a party. BNP is a very established party with resources, with network all over the country. They have ruled the country more than once. And so they know how to win elections, how to compete in elections. They have the infrastructure to win. So essentially, what really happened is that once Awami League was banned, the only party which had a nationwide infrastructure and know-how on winning elections won the election. So that's what it is. It's not that ideas really played any major role in this election. I want to very quickly run through what I think are the primary promises made by this party to show you that there was nothing really very special. So take a look at this. This is the promises made by BNP, that there will be governance and constitutional reform. The referendum has also passed. They say there's economic revival and job creation. There's nothing new, anti-corruption measures and expansion of social welfare. So basically, these were the demands that the students were making. when the so-called revolution began in August 2024. So this is their agenda. And then if you look at what the Jamaat Islami offered, it is very similar: institutional reforms, rule of law, and anti-corruption. But they felt the need that they needed to say that, oh, we will bring women in governance. Women were already in governance for a long time. Women were prime ministers of Bangladesh. So I don't know why Jamaat Islami felt that it would add to the presence of women in Bangladeshi government. People were more afraid that women would not be allowed to participate in the public sphere. And some of the comments made by the leader of the Jamaat Islami, especially in that interview to Al Jazeera, where he basically completely ditched the possibility of women being heads of state under a Jamaat Islami government. And so this is the promises made by the Jamaat Islami. So if you notice, there's hardly any difference between, except the part on women, between the two. Everybody wants reforms, everybody wants to create jobs. And then this is what the students they wanted to reduce voting age to 16. That is such a stupid promise, because in this particular election, 16-year-olds were not going to vote. And so it probably has had no leverage for them. 10 million jobs, that sounds like a pipe dream. And so everything else is nothing really very exciting in their reforms. Plus some of their alignments also, I think, upset people that they were more aligned with parties that they should have been opposed to. So this is the agenda on which. So basically what has happened is that if Sheikh Hasina had conducted the elections as a fair and free elections in 2024, perhaps she would have lost the election to BNP, but she would have been a legitimate party, probably the opposition leader in the Bangladeshi election. Nothing else much would have changed in Bangladesh. So right now we are there, and I don't see any major transformative things going on in Bangladesh. Listening to people in Bangladesh and reading some of the stuff that's coming out of it, they seem to be very excited, and all the best to them. But I must congratulate Bangladeshis for having this fair and free election with just, I mean, the kind of, there were some reports of some violence here and there, but overall it was fantastic. The election was good. International observers ratified it, and so congratulations to all of them for having an election. Now is the hard work begins now, really, where the party BNP delivers, especially on constitutional reforms, on elimination of corruption, because they were part of that elite establishment which was corrupt. So will BNP be able to eliminate those structural corruptions in Bangladeshi politics? That remains to be seen. If it just becomes another Awami League party with a different name and a different person in charge, then I think then the Bangladeshis will be sorry that they have really gained nothing. Nevertheless, Prime Minister Modi, coming to my second part of it, but I must really point out that if you look at the experience of Tunisia and Egypt, etc., where there was a reversal of electoral gains made after Arab Spring, I think what Bangladesh has shown is that, unlike the Middle East, some parts of South Asia are instinctively democratic, especially Bangladesh and India. And so congratulations for Bangladesh to be able to come back from experiencing literally an authoritarian government under Muhammad Yunus, who was unelected, and well, he was an interim government, but the fact that they were able to come back. And also my kudos to Mr. Yunus himself. I think he should be nominated again for a Nobel Prize for just giving up power. This is something that is unheard of in today's era. If you look at the example of Tunisia or even Egypt, we haven't had fair and free elections in Egypt in a long time. There are no opposition to talk of in those countries. Anyway, so Prime Minister Modi immediately sent this tweet out on February 12th after the elections. I extend my heartfelt congratulations to Mr. Tariq Rahman for leading the BNP to decisive victory in the parliamentary elections held in Bangladesh. This is a very important message because it tells them that India recognizes the Bangladeshi election outcome. It's not like the Taliban in Afghanistan, where nobody recognizes Afghanistan, Taliban as the legitimate government of Afghanistan, even though many countries like India continue to deal with them. But I think this is a very important thing. This is legitimized. And of course, all other international countries. India had no choice. If India had not sent this message, it would have further undermined India-Bangladesh relations, because the United States and other countries in the world were going to recognize this election as reasonably fair anyway. So it's not as if that what India is doing is something very profound. What India did was quick and smart. But it's also interesting. This result reflects the confidence of the people of Bangladesh in your leadership, basically denying exactly what Sheikh Hasina said. I'll show you what Sheikh Hasina said. And so the fact that Modi has not repeated what Sheikh Hasina said, at least should signal to Bangladesh that under certain circumstances, the Modi government is open to departing from the position that there is understood that they are behind Sheikh Hasina and would like to see Sheikh Hasina and Awami League in power, because they were basically subordinate. They became a client state of India under Sheikh Hasina. What is interesting is this third part in Modi's message. India will continue to extend its support for democratic, progressive, and inclusive Bangladesh. This is quite interesting that Prime Minister Modi advocates values that he doesn't even practice himself. Let me read this again so that you understand. India will continue to extend its support for a democratic, well, let's assume that India is democratic, which it is to a great extent, but will support for a progressive and inclusive Bangladesh. Modi, who has no Muslim minister in his cabinet, a country where Muslims are 15% of the population, and progressive. Since when has Modi become progressive? He's conservative. He's against progressive values, isn't he? And inclusive. So it's quite ironic, this message coming from Prime Minister Modi. He wants Bangladesh to be better than the India that he governs. I look forward to working closely with you to further strengthen our multifaceted relationship and advance our shared development goals. But anyway, full marks to Prime Minister Modi for sending a message. If I was asked to write a message for him, I couldn't have written it better. It's a different thing that there's fundamental hypocrisy in this, but let's ignore that. Sheikh Hasina, on the other hand, came up with this message: deception and farce. Sheikh Hasina rejects Bangladesh poll results, calls it a disgraceful chapter. So her position is that this was a premeditated, pre-planned, and the election was totally rigged. I mean, she's been doing this for so long that she can't imagine Bangladesh having a fair or free election. So it appears as if that this election is pre-planned. So she seems to be completely isolated on this. And I think her stature, probably even in India, should go down significantly. So now, is this going to be a reset, an opportunity to reset relations? There are several things that we really need to talk about. First thing is that what are India's concerns? India, initially, when Sheikh Hasina was the prime minister of Bangladesh, India had basically two concerns. One was the potentiality of the rising extremism in Bangladesh. And so India supported her, even though she became very repressive and authoritarian. And India was constantly upset and worried that Bangladesh might, after joining the Belt and Road Initiative, become too much indebted to China and become part of China's penetration of South Asia. And we have talked about that a lot on this show. I do not wish to rehash it, but China's Belt and Road Initiative, nearly every country, including Afghanistan, except Bhutan and India, I think, I'm not even sure that Bhutan, are all part of the Belt and Road Initiative, and China has decisively more influence over many South Asian countries today in South than India itself. So those were the two primary concerns that India had. But now, after the revolt and expulsion of Sheikh Hasina, India has not only given her safe haven, but has refused to extradite her to Bangladesh, who have requested that she be sent back to face the law. So, what the election result signals to Bangladesh is that while there is the danger of right wing politics and ideologies, that Bangladesh Jamaat Islami, if you take that as completely right wing ideology, it has got more than 20% of the seats, so 68, and with partners 77, so close to 30%. Well, not 30%. Well, 68 out of 70 out of 300. Fine, so about 25%, close to that. So there is a danger of right-wing ideologies, and Jamaat will continue to put pressure on on BNP. If the BNP tries to get any closer to India, there will be the opposition's main stick with which they will attack Rahman, and so he will. It's going to act as a check on Bangladesh becoming too closely aligned with India. There's no doubt about it. So that worry should remain for India, and it has to somehow come to terms with that. And I also suspect that the Jamaat Islami is going to maintain reasonably close relations with China, and might be open to manipulation by China. So we'll see what happens. And then, of course, the new relations with Pakistan that Bangladesh has forged under Muhammad Yunus, which is India's biggest foreign policy loss in the last 2 years and completely backfired. What India got is Sheikh Hasina, and what Bangladesh got was Pakistan. So that is something that I think is very serious. And as long as Sheikh Hasina remains in India, and either India tells her to leave India or hands her over to Bangladesh, even BNP will not be able to fully normalize relations with India, because they will be under pressure from their own voters and their public to bring Sheikh Hasina to Bangladesh to face the music, so to speak. So that issue will continue to remain to some extent. I was quite surprised during my last visit to India, which was just a few weeks ago, that some of the prominent voices on Bangladesh were quite openly talking about that India is just waiting for the moment where they seem to be under the impression that Bangladesh toggles this way, that way, this way, that way frequently. Well, that's what happens in democracies where there are only two parties. It's like Americans. Sometimes we have Republicans, sometimes Democrats. But apparently, people who observe Bangladesh thought that they were making a very profound observation when they say that Bangladesh toggles ideologically. And so they felt that it was just a matter of time that the public opinion in Bangladesh would turn against Tariq Rahman like he was not supposed to come back to Bangladesh ever, and now he's going to be the prime minister. So just like that, in a few years, they feel that the public opinion will turn against BNP, and India will be there to grab Bangladesh, and the instrument of that grabbing will be Sheikh Hasina, who will be living in India. I first of all, I don't like that idea itself, that you are trying to dominate another country and trying to use this leadership. Plus, I don't think it's really going to work. But nevertheless, this Modi's gesture of openness, in fact, if Modi goes, there is the idea that perhaps the regional leaders will be invited to Tariq Rahman's swearing-in ceremony. If Modi goes, or at least send somebody as prominent as, say, Dr. Jaishankar, then it might work towards moving India Bangladesh relations a bit more forward. Another point that I want to make is that things have changed fundamentally in the geopolitical architecture of the region in the last 1.5 years. This whole business of India, I think India's expression of concern for minorities in Bangladesh is profoundly hypocritical. in a period where Bangladesh was going through a turmoil, there were lots of violence against minorities. There is absolutely no doubt about it. But part of it is because the minorities were also supporters of Awami League. So there was this confusion whether people were being attacked because they were members of Awami League or whether they were minorities. So yes, they were, but the violence should not have happened, whether it was against Awami League or minorities. But for India to constantly make this the number one issue, as if India is now the biggest supporters of minority rights, given the fact that in India itself, the situation of minorities is worse than. I mean, look at Hemanta Basu promising to kill Muslims and making videos as campaigns. And this is a stable democracy, India, with Modi in power for the past 11 years. There's no turmoil in Indian politics. This is normal. Targeting minorities with guns, lynching. Just go and Google Muslim lynched in India and see how many show up in the last 3 months alone. So there is this hypocritical posture that India had adopted, and trying to say that, trying to delegitimize everything that was going on in Bangladesh, and nobody in the world has really bought it. Trump once made a comment during the campaign about minorities in Bangladesh. In fact, the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom has been far more critical of India than it has been of Bangladesh on the treatment of minorities. In India, violence and discrimination against minorities has become the dominant religion of India today. Look at the way Christians were treated during the Christmas season. So anyway, I think things have changed fundamentally. This whole, under Sheikh Hasina, when India had the best relations with Bangladesh, and Sheikh Hasina was supposed to be a very close friend of Modi. Modi and Amit Shah continued to demonize Bangladeshis. They call them Dimak and all kinds of names, and constantly demonize them as refugees, illegal refugees, so on and so forth. So they made them the target of hate in every election campaign. Prime Minister Modi's 2024 elections, using of the word Guspitias, etc. So there's this constant demonization of Bangladesh. So for Bangladesh, there should be a lesson with, as long as Prime Minister Modi and his party is in power, even with a sycophant like Sheikh Hasina, who was basically like a servant to Modi, India demonized Bangladeshis. So what is there to gain by sucking up to India? That is a question for the Bangladeshis to really ask. But like I said, Bangladesh has economic dependency, educational dependency, health-related dependencies. Even their main products that they export, the raw material comes from India. There's a security relations. India completely surrounds Bangladesh. So Bangladesh cannot not have good relations with India. So they have to find a way to thread the needle. But India is going to find it far more difficult to deal with this new Bangladesh because there is going to be in the beginning a lot of self-confidence among this government, because it has a tremendous mandate, absolute majority, 212 seats out of 300, and once the women's seats come in, which are 50%, which are allocated, they probably are going to get another 30 plus seats. So they're going to have a pretty dominant position in the government. But not only that, as I said, several things have happened. Number one, until recently, the United States let India lead on Bangladesh. But now the United States does not reach out to Bangladesh through India. The US deals with Bangladesh directly. So Bangladesh has now developed an, shall we say, a critical relationship with the United States. As you can see with this new revised trade deal that Bangladesh has signed with Donald Trump. So number one, Bangladesh is now on a much better footing with the US than Sheikh Hasina was. Biden was determined to remove her. Trump is not. Trump is going to welcome Tariq Rahman and the new government in Bangladesh, number one. Number two, China is as supportive of Bangladesh as it was in the past. In fact, it might be even more supportive because of its it has now two players that it can support, both BNP as well as Jamaat Islami. Third, that there was no relations between Pakistan and Bangladesh. Now the relations are so cozy, their security partnerships, their intelligence sharing, they're talking about trade and development. But not only that, Pakistan was willing to boycott the cricket match, which was going to be played in a few hours in India. With India in the World Cup, and face serious consequences and sanctions from ICC for just standing up on behalf of Bangladesh, something that has never happened before. So for Bangladesh, it's in a much stronger geopolitical position today than it was when Sheikh Hasina was the prime minister of Bangladesh. So for India, this is a new challenge. So for India, number one challenge is that Bangladesh has more friends now than it had in the past. So it gives Bangladesh more strategic autonomy to deal with India uh, than it had previously, number one. Number two, Bangladesh now has the Jamaat Islami in a more legitimate and a strong position, and Jamaat Islami is ideologically profoundly, as opposed to India, as the right wingers in India are. And remember one thing: BNP is left of center, India is right of center. So Modi talking about progressive values are hypocritical. Indians won't get it even. They don't even think critically these days when it comes to Modi. But yes, India is going to have a problem with the democratic structure of Bangladesh, because the opposition party is going to be ideologically opposed to it. Previously, there was no opposition party under Sheikh Hasina. And so it was just a one-party state, and India was in the best of relations with that one party. Finally, what I do want to emphasize is the world is becoming very different. The structures of the world have been devastated by Donald Trump's foreign policy, etc. I will be talking about the Munich conference maybe in a day or two. Thank God, Alhamdulillah, my health is getting better. So I will be able to, hopefully within a week, get back to doing shows as I used to do regularly. But I will do one on the Munich conference, which is going on, which clearly shows that the Europeans and the Americans are going in opposite direction. So the world is changing significantly. It is allowing smaller and middle powers to find new pathways. So either they can use this opportunity to find and advance a new foreign policy, or they can continue with the old foreign policy and find that there is a mismatch between their foreign policy priorities and the global structure. So in that sense, Bangladesh has a tremendous advantage, because it's a new Bangladesh that is facing a new world order. And therefore, they can reset a lot of the things. And so my suggestion to Bangladesh is to keep all its options open, keep its relations with China as strong as possible, keep its relations with Pakistan, keep its relations with the US, and then try to improve relations with India. And of course, I have been opposed to Sheikh Hasina being in India from the very beginning. Go back and look at all my shows. And I think that is going to remain a sore point between India and Bangladesh for quite some time. If India really supports Bangladesh democracy, then it should not hold Sheikh Hasina as a trump card in its back pocket. So these are some of the issues that I wanted to discuss with you. But once again, congratulations to Bangladesh on having a wonderful elections. There is hope and excitement that there will be a new Bangladesh emerging going forward, and I wish them all the luck. Very soon I will be having a very prominent Bangladeshi policy expert coming on the show on Conversations, and we'll hear more in detail from him. So thank you for watching Conversations. Like this video, press the bell icon, and share this video with your socio-political network. Until next time, I'm your host, Muqtada Khan. Take care. Let me see if there are some interesting questions or comments, and I'll be happy to answer them. Hello, sir. Someone, something 4015. Hello, how are you? So what will happen to Sheikh Hasina now? Will India ask her to leave India? Do you see Awami League allowed to contest elections in future? Well, there's already talk that Awami League is reforming. There are new people who are not connected to her. The next election is 4 or 5 years away. So I think by then, if the Awami League has reconstituted itself, then, but if it remains the family business of Sheikh Hasina and her relatives, then I don't think it's going to come back. As far as India is concerned, India should ask Sheikh Hasina to leave. She should either go off to Dubai or go off to Singapore, somewhere neutral, and not remain in India. Because as long as she remains in India, like I said, there are people in India who think they can use her to bring her back and then make Bangladesh a subordinate client state of India and dominate its foreign policy and dictate. One of the advisors to Tariq Rahman, I forget his name, he said very clearly that those days are over when we will be told with whom we can make deals and with whom we cannot make deals. He was giving this interview to Press Trust of India, and so yes, at least the Bangladeshis are aware of this. Whether they will be able to exercise strategic autonomy is a different question altogether. But as long as Sheikh Hasina remains in India, I think Bangladesh is going to be reluctant to have. In fact, if India continues to oppose the demands made by BNP to send her over, then they will take this as an anti-Bangladesh move. So for India, the best thing would be not to abandon an old friend, but tell them to go somewhere else. But if they want to hold on to her, then they will have to face the consequences of not having as friendly a Bangladesh as they would like to. And then there's not much questions. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and Ziaur Rahman both contributed to Bangladesh freedom, but now both families are trying to delete each other's contribution in history. At the end, what would Bangladesh left? Well, if Bangladesh is looking to the past, then yes, both will cancel each other out and they'll have nothing left. But I think Bangladesh should look to the future. There's a lot of promise there. Bangladesh has the infrastructure of a liberal democracy. They can strengthen it. They have youth on their side. Their economy was doing reasonably well. They had even surpassed India in GDP per capita a few years ago. Right now, their growth rates are abysmal in 2 or 3%. They need to fix their economy. They need to fix the corruption in the country. It's a very corrupt country. If they can get those things right, then they can look forward to becoming what would we call as a upper middle income economy in 10 to 15 years. They have the opportunity to do well. When I look at countries like Bangladesh, I can tell you that things were going so much in their favor. The only reason why they're not doing well is because of bad governance. Yes, they have environmental issues, etc., but it's not as if that earthquakes are devastating them or major wars are destroying them. Yes, they have a refugee crisis on the border near Myanmar with Rohingyas, etc. Yes, so they have faced certain calamities, but they're not as devastating. The biggest devastating calamity that Bangladesh has suffered is bad governance and corruption. And what corruption really does is that a small percentage of people essentially steal all the resources of the country, and it impedes the development of the rest of the country. So the Bangladeshis, instead of looking to the past, should look to the future and try to really value good governance and focus. All the parties were talking about reform and anti-corruption developments. So please go ahead and do it, BNP. What is India is a water thief. It takes well in front of its mouth, but never keeps the word. Yes, that is going to be probably one of the biggest issues after Sheikh Hasina that Bangladesh and Pakistan, India will have to resolve, is the water crisis that Bangladesh is going to face. And we'll see what happens. I mean, India has more leverage over Bangladesh there. What is this? Tariq will try to bring Hasina and dictate Awami League through DJFI eventually. I don't know these kind of tactics. this is not governance. This is not statecraft. This is shitty politics. This kind of tactics, dirty tactics. I don't like to think about them. I just don't like people who do that. I hope he doesn't do that. He has an opportunity to provide a vision for a more democratic, more inclusive, more progressive, as Prime Minister Modi said, but a more development oriented Bangladesh rather than this. I hope he doesn't do this. Okay. Oh, Mr. There's nothing interesting. People seem to think that my analysis is pedestrian, but yet they continue to watch. Well, I guess there's nothing else interesting on TV. This is an interesting question. So, do you think BJP supporters are not in control of BJP itself? By BJP supporters, you mean ordinary voters, I suppose, not members of the party. But as long as Modi is around, BJP will continue to win to some extent. And the trouble, I think, will start when the successor for Modi is. It's time to select. If Modi retires, which he's not going to, and if he dies, then maybe, let's say he dies before the election of 2029, the next Lok Sabha election, then the BJP will have to hunt for a leader, a face on the basis of which they would want to win an election. Who is number 2 in BJP? Amit Shah? You know, is Amit Shah a leader? Or is he an excellent number 2, but not an excellent number 1? So I don't know what is going to happen to BJP. The last election, they did not get the majority vote. They got lucky. They had to bring in outside support from Nitish Kumar and Chandrababu Naidu to remain in power. And then they have been rigging elections, etc., with all these dirty tactics of canceling Muslim voters, SIR, etc. At some point, the country is going to get sick and tired of these dirty things that BJP does all the time to win elections. And if there's not much progress or development, India's GDP per capita has not yet crossed 3,000. The rupee is at 90 plus. So yes, things are not really hunky-dory as people might think. And I just came back after spending a month in India, and let me tell you, I mean, the air quality of Delhi it's a wonderful place. I enjoyed spending 12 days in Delhi. Wonderful people. I had a great time in Delhi, except for the fact that it just really had a very negative effect on my health because the air quality was so bad. Like Geeta Gopinathan of IMF, formerly IMF, now Harvard, said that this whole pollution is going to essentially impede India's economic development, not to mention healthcare, and kill people. Yes, I will do in Hindi. I did a whole show. I've done only 3 shows this month because I've not been well. And I did 2 in Hindi, and this is my second in English. Please watch the show with Dr. Saeed Sadek about Iran in the US. It covers a lot of interesting aspects of the Middle East, including India's role in the Middle East. Lots of hellos, salams, walaikum salams, and the meeting. You mean the Oman meeting? Yes. Just go back and see the discussion I had yesterday with Dr. Saeed Sadek of Egypt. When there was no former outcomes, apparently the US military was also present in Oman, and there was not just indirect negotiation, but also some direct exchanges between the Iranian as well as the American. The fact that Donald Trump is not attacking Iran yet shows that he expects something to come out of the negotiations, but they've not announced when the next one is. It's a tricky position. Donald Trump has unnecessarily put himself in a position where he might have to do something that he does not like doing and may not like the outcome of what he's trying to do. So with Iran, as they say, for Iran, this is an existential issue. So for them, there is more clarity, strategic clarity. They will fight. Otherwise, they will die. But for the Americans, America has a choice. Will America want to get into a fight just for Israel? A fight that could cost it things. It could cost an economic crisis on the global scale. It could hurt a lot of its allies in the region and have a devastating impact on the Republican Party in midterm elections. This is not what MAGA elected Trump to do, to fight endless wars in the Middle East, and that's what Trump has been doing. He's been going after Iran for 1 year. So I don't know. This is a trouble of his own making, as far as Trump is concerned. I'm fine. They're trying their best to hide a lot of things. They're hiding names of donors. Obviously, everything that they are hiding, when it's exposed, you'll find they are either donors of the Republican Party or Donald Trump's friends or Israelis connections. That's it. Those are the three things that Trump is trying to protect. There's not much chatter about how Epstein was an Israeli agent, essentially blackmailing Americans to support Israel. They're trying to paint him as a Russian agent. Can you believe that? So there's a lot of money and power that is being used to protect Israel. And that's why the Epstein files are being, slowly leaked out, and they're still doing all kind of shitty stuff. So on a daily basis, there's like a war of attrition going on between Democrats and Republicans, and some MAGA people who are also putting pressure on the Republicans to release everything. But one thing that must be said clearly is that the American political elite, both parties combined, not just American, but the Westerners, seem to be so deeply engrossed in such filthy pedophiliac rape and other horrible things. I just don't feel like even talking. If you notice, I have not invited any American politician to on my show in the last 1 year. Otherwise, I used to have senators and members of Congress, state senators, a lot of them governors. Go back and look at my channel 2 years ago. Many of these politicians. Now I don't feel like even talking to them. Who knows? I look at an American politician and say, oh shit, is this fellow also a pedophile who's been on Epstein's island? I don't know. So I'm just staying away from the American politicians. Sorry to say that. It's my country, but it's awful. Oh, don't say stupid things like this, please. Absolutely. You have no evidence to this country. Do not undermine your own country for your stupid party. Okay, this stupid party will not get women's votes at all. Why will women vote for Jamaat Islami? And women are an important part of Bangladesh vote. They try to sound very liberal. They don't. Let me tell you, Islamist parties have nothing to offer. Their whole idea is we will impose the Sharia on you. Okay, and then what? Make me have a beard? Make my wife wear hijab? Then what? What about my jobs? What about dealing with artificial intelligence? What about the regional geopolitics? What is Taliban doing? Is that the model that you want for your country? Rubbish. No, there was lots of discussions about it. Obviously, Netanyahu is not happy that Trump has not already invaded. Trump is only talking about the nuclear program, but Netanyahu wants to end everything that Iran has, basically the ballistics, the drones, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, drones, etc. Not to mention the already purified uranium, about 400 kilos at Iran. It basically wants to take away all Iran's capacity to do any threat to anybody. And Iran, why will Iran do that? Iran will fight rather than give it up, as I said. And Israel can't do it itself, so Israel is trying to goad America into doing its dirty work for it. And Trump, I don't know whether he's stupid or dumb or he wants the money from Israeli lobbyists so badly that he's willing to do this. Love to you too, Maddie. Uh, yeah, I want to do that. I haven't followed it. Like I said, I've been very ill. Apparently, China is without generals now. Yeah, we need to follow that and see what's going on in China internally. But yes, he's got rid of a lot of people. He's using corruption as a weapon to essentially eliminate people who are dissidents and are disagreeing with his vision and direction. Hi, Jared. Thank you very much. And then uh, Mohit Punia, I'm not very sure. Every Bangladesh expert that I spoke to in Delhi, I wanted to actually go to Bangladesh, but a lot of people told me, don't go to Bangladesh right now because there's election coming and it's not going to be safe, chaos, etc. There was a lot of pressure on me not to go, so I decided that perhaps I will go a few months later after the elections are over. I do want to visit Bangladesh. I have lots of friends there. But everybody was pretty clear that BNP was going to win, and there was no doubt in their mind. They were just worried as to how many seats Jamaat Islami would get. There was one particular poll that came out a few months ago that suggested that they were neck and neck in public opinion polling. But like I said, I think there's no incentive for women to vote for Jamaat Islami. So even if the men are half and half, the women would have swung it in the favor of. For young people, also, Jamaat Islami has nothing to offer. They have no vision. Since the death of Maududi, there has been no intellectual. What is the Jamaat Islami's vision in the 21st century? So, if you look, like I said, if you look at what BNP was offering, I'll show you that. This is what BNP was offering. Okay, governance, constitutional reform, economic revival, job creation, anti-corruption measures, expansion of social welfare. You can clearly see a progressive left of center agenda here. What has Jamaat Islami got to offer? Institutional reform, rule of law. That's it. Those two things, which are here also. But they added women in governance. So basically, they said, oh, maybe we'll give you some jobs to women in some kind of place in government. Why did they feel the need to say that? Does BNP feel the need to say that we will give women role in governance? Obviously not. They've had a woman prime minister, Khaleda Zia. So, but the Jamaat is playing defensive on this wicket. And youth empowerment, like empower them to do what? Do they have an agenda? No discussion of education, reforms, etc. And this party, I found this agenda very difficult to take seriously. Really. That's just a good question. I think he wanted it immediately after the India deal because of the fact that India got 18% and Bangladesh was at 20%, especially in the garment section. That would have made people in the garment industry in Bangladesh very nervous. And so the deal that was announced, one of the most prominent aspects of it is that if Bangladesh buys American cotton and raw material, they will be able to export at 0% tariffs to the US. An offer that they say made to India too, but I don't think India is going to take that offer because it will affect India's agriculture. And the farmers are already upset with the current deal. So Bangladesh, it is a good deal for Bangladesh, and that's why I think UNIS went ahead with it. Well said. So can't expect much from BNP unless it has learned some lessons and not repeat its mistakes. Yeah, I agree with you, Sadia. Sadia is a doctoral student at the University of Delaware. I learned a lot about Bangladesh from her. But I agree with you that it was easy to go. They had an infrastructure, they had a history, etc. I don't know how well structured the Jamaat Islami is. There's a popular map going around in India which shows that Bangladesh, the border constituencies that border India, especially in Bengal, etc., is where Jamaat Islami has won seats, which has made India very nervous. But the other new parties, It was like the Arab Spring. They had no infrastructure. They don't know how to run a political party. So the only party with an infrastructure went, became the leader. Now the question is, does Tariq Rahman have a new agenda and a new vision? And that's where the youth should come in. I would be, my advice to Tariq Rahman would be to bring in new blood. Okay, it's the old party, so like old bottle, but there should be a new wine in it. Not old wine in new bottle, but new wine in an old bottle. So bring in more youth, young people who are worried about their own future into governance, and to bring in new ideas. Because they really need new ideas. And just playing around with geopolitics the way Muhammad Yunus did is not going to solve the problems. The problems of developing countries is development. It's the same problems for Pakistan, same problems for India. How to create jobs for young people, how to end corruption, and how to go ahead and improve the quality of life, while also guaranteeing social justice and equality, protecting the rights of minorities. There's 6 or 8 things that all these countries have to focus on. On the economic side, create jobs, remove corruption, try to make sure that the quality of life improves, quality of health improves. And on the social side, make sure that there is equality, make sure that people are not discriminated against, make sure that minorities are protected, there is religious freedom, especially women and people who have been traditionally underprivileged. These are a no-brainer, you know. Go ask ChatGPT what are the 8 most important things I should do. I bet you that it'll tell you these same things. NCP was immature. Yeah, well, I don't blame them, you see. Like I told you, winning elections in a large country is quite different from having a small revolution in a university or in a small city. This is exactly what happened to the liberals. Do you remember all those so-called Google engineers who brought Mubarak down? They couldn't even come up with a proper party. In Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood simply ran away with the elections. It was the Jamaat Islami of power. There was no BNP in Egypt and no Awami League either, right? So the military essentially had devastated all opposition parties. The only party that was allowed to function, more or less, to some extent, was the Muslim Brotherhood. It had an infrastructure, it used the mosques as an infrastructure for them all over the country, so they won. Winning elections requires a ground game. It's not just statements and manifestos and even charismatic leaders. You have to have resources, bring them up. And I doubt whether NCP, plus a lot of those people are already in the government, like Nahid Islam, etc., right? So they didn't even have the time to build a party. Hopefully now they can go forward and build a party. But if that is their agenda, they're, we're going to give 16-year-olds the right to vote. Nah, I don't know what that is about. Make sure that 16-year-olds stay in school and have some nice colleges and universities to go to. Mohit, I'm going to try. I have lots of, one of my best friends from high school lives in Vancouver. There's a wonderful train that goes from Toronto to Vancouver. One of these days, me and my wife are going to make that train ride, inshallah. Oh, this is an interesting question. See, because India has already stopped selling cotton to Bangladesh, which is what it needs to compete with India and other countries in the garment industry. See, India is rated by the World Bank as an upper middle income economy, and Bangladesh is still listed as a lower income economy, not as a middle income economy. And because even though its GDP is on the same level as India's, it's still rated as lower income economy. As a result of that, it gets certain advantages in exporting goods to Western countries that India does not get. So the Bangladesh enjoyed this advantage for about 10 years. But now India was trying to put pressure on Bangladesh by trying to cut supplies of raw material to the only industry which was leading to a thriving Bangladeshi economy. And so the US coming in and saying, you buy our cotton and we will buy your garments at 0% is something that Bangladesh is probably going to look at. India cannot buy cotton from the US because Indian cotton farmers will be very upset. And they've already lost a market in Bangladesh where they could export it to. So this is a bad situation for India and potentially advantageous for the Bangladeshis if they manage it well. So how ironic it is, Bangladesh and Pakistan, they never choose religious parties in election, whereas Indian soft power and people need to show bigger heart and bring religions together. India has a religious party in power. See, my throat trouble is beginning to come back. Yes, it is quite ironic. In fact, Islamists have not won elections anywhere unless except Egypt and Tunisia, maybe Sudan. But in Pakistan, Jamaat Islami never got more than 30%. Only once it got 30% of the vote. This was post 9/11, because there were lots of anti-Muslim and anti-Islamic rhetoric coming from the West. So there was this anti-West sentiment which got Jamaat Islami, I think, 30% of the vote. But there were soft parties like Nawaz Sharif, Muslim League, etc. Like like Imran Khan, they become soft surrogates for Islamists. Let me see the one more two. You're asking damn good questions. Yeah, the Vietnam. I don't know whether Vietnam and Indonesia have restrictions on agricultural products from the US like India has. And apparently Jaishankar gave a speech at Munich, which kind of signals that India may not stop buying oil from Russia or something like that. They're trying to pretend. I think what Jaishankar is trying to do is India is going to stop buying Russian oil, and India is going to pretend they did not do that because of Trump's pressure. They did it because of nothing. That's why I feel strong. 3 days ago, 4 days ago, there would have been blood here. What Jaishankar is trying to do is that I think India is going to stop buying Russian oil. And then they're going to pretend that they did it because of market reasons. This is how we always bought oil, blah, 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 blah. Trying to save Modi's image from, this surrender Narendra kind of rhetoric that's coming from the opposition. But with the cotton trade, the farmers there are farmers who are commenting on my show, and they have said very clearly that, look, soya bean prices have gone down. There's something called minimum support pricing in India, MSP. So if the price of any commodity goes below that, the Indian government tries to subsidize or help the farmers. So as soon as this trade deal was announced, both cotton and soya bean prices, even though India is not importing soya bean from the US, its prices have gone down because certain soya products, waste products, are going to be imported from the US, not soya beans themselves. I think soya corn or soya milk, whatever it is, I don't understand those. But those already are down. If you go to investing.com, etc., you can look at the futures of soya and cotton in India, and you can see downward trend on pricing, which is going to put the farmers in a bad shape. Yeah, we talked about that. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for watching Conversations. Please like this video, press the bell icon, and share this video with your socio-political network. Until next time, I'm your host, Muqtada Khan. Take care. Bye. And tomorrow's match, all the best. It's going to be fascinating to watch. I still support India, even though I don't like Gautam Gambhir at all, but I love Surya Kumar. He gave a wonderful press conference. So we'll see what happens tomorrow, or rather, for you guys, it's today in a few hours. And once again, happy Valentine's Day to all of you and all the lovers in the world. May your true loves come true. Bye.